Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, checking in on the MJ sector. Before we get into the MJ sector, just a note on SHRM. First, congrats to the bulls getting on the shroom train. I just hope you apply every lesson that you have learned in the MJ sector over the last 3 years to playing this name. And I'll leave it at that. We are in blue sky breakout. Things are extremely overextended. We've seen a higher low every single day for a bunch of days. We know how this is going to top out. It's going to top out with a explosion to the upside, a volume climax, and a very fast 30% plus pullback. So prepare for that. Whether you're scaling out, whether you fully accept that your position, ideally, taking house money off or taking your money off and playing with only house money, and if you want to hold it long term, then ride it to zero. That's perfectly fine, but just have a long-term game plan. And if you want to invest long-term, read the financials. How is this company making money? What is their debt structure like? What is their share structure like? What is the convertible debt like? What are the laws that are currently in place to slow them down? What are potential law changes that could be a big benefit? These are all things that are going to be huge factors down the road. And the question on any penny stock starting in this sector right now for me is, can they keep the doors open and the lights on long enough for the sector to develop? And the normal way that companies do that is usually through dilution. So have a level head. Congrats on the gains. Don't give them all back. CGC. So the S&P 500 changed its daily trend, which would be the equivalent of CGC already breaking 1634, which tells us the MJ sector is not as strong as the S&P 500 right now and not benefiting as much from the strength that we saw today. It was a big day, 8%. Bulls aren't complaining about 8%. But again, you look at SPY, and SPY would have been already to a higher high. So the most important short-term support is now 1288. We have daily resistance at 1547 and 1634. That's a little lower high. Those are our resistance levels, and we have to see the bulls get over 1634 for significant follow-through. Weekly exponential resistance is absolutely on watch. It's a weekly inside bar from last week, and we are looking for a weekly lower high to be set on this bounce. Don't lose sight of that big picture. The question that we have now, has it been set already, or do we have another leg up? And again, it was the same thing with SPY. SPY changed its daily trend. We were looking for a weekly lower high. We still are, but that weekly lower high has not been set yet, and the bulls are creating more space for the weekly higher low to form once we top out. CRON, I like to be scouting for a bearish entry. Why? Because it's very likely we form a daily lower high compared to 665, and we've already seen 3 green days in a row. So we need another 20%, less than that, 18%, to get to that resistance level. Watch the hourly trend. I like this kind of top fishing play. I do it all the time on the 5-minute time frame. If I'm looking for hourly consolidation and the 5-minute uptrend is slowing down, we see a big pullback, I say, all right, I'm going to top fish the high from there and then hope that we follow through with the trend change favoring the bears for the hourly consolidation. This is the same thing, but on a different time frame. So the hourly chart is our guide. Anything above 570, or actually we haven't set a clear hourly high or low yet. So anything above 558 is an hourly high or low. When we lose the hourly uptrend, we could, if we wanted to be very conservative and tight risk, when we lose the hourly uptrend, we can top fish the high of the bounce to that point. If I want to be looser and have a smaller position size to reflect the greater risk percentage-wise, I would be looking to scale in for a bearish entry using 665 as my stop. It all depends on what your risk tolerance is and whether you are thinking short-term or long-term. ACB is very weak. There's certainly questions about whether ACB can keep its doors open in terms of running out of money, and that's the case for a lot of names in this sector right now. We'll get to IAN shortly, but after 78, if it breaks, we are looking back down at a lack of support, 77, 70, 67, 60. Clearly standing out as the weakest of the major Canadian MJ names. Only red Canadian MJ name on my screen. APHA, bounce, daily higher low is established at 279. But again, anything under 361 is just a daily lower high, and that's 20% from where we closed just now. So loss of the hourly uptrend would mean a daily lower high has been set, and we're keeping an eye out for that over the coming days. TLRY, bulls didn't do much of anything today. Resistance is 685, support is 550, and not a convincing bounce day for TLRY at this point. VFF, high of Friday, just barely broke by 3 pennies. Trying to get some follow through. We're anticipating an equilibrium is the most likely scenario. We will be looking for a lower high compared to 379. Bulls certainly want another green day for some follow through on top of this, but we will be looking for the daily lower high. OGI, inside bar, if it breaks bullish, we're scouting a lower high compared to 216. And Hexo, very weak, no bounce follow through, 76 double top the last 2 days. If we break it bullish, we just look for the lower high compared to 123. So pretty much everybody in the sector that we just looked at is looking for a daily lower high. And CGC, holding on, at least visually, it looks better than most, but we're just going to be looking for a lower high there as well compared to 1634, at least initially. And if CGC gives us the lower high, there's a lot of names that are not positioned as well, and they will be looking for those lower highs as well. Labs, potential daily bear flag at this point. If we break the low of today, tomorrow, the odds of a daily bear flag will increase. 144 is support. And we're just looking for a lower high on the daily chart. VLNS, inside bar, although we did break the high of Friday by a few pennies, so it's not an inside bar. Key short-term support is 207. Bulls have to break 260 for continuation, and we are 15% away from that happening with where we closed. So on to the US sector. So on IIPR, low, high of the bull move, higher low is now 65.75, and we're looking for a lower high compared to 85.54. Same as the Canadian MJ setup as far as what the daily charts are looking for. And again, knowing that we're looking for daily lower highs and knowing that we're looking for weekly lower highs, it's hard for me to be bullish in this sector short term. Curaleaf looking for a lower high compared to 630. Key daily support is now 483. When we lose the daily uptrend, our weekly lower high will be set. CWeb leveling out, but not really much bull follow through. 565 is support, and anything under 714 would be a lower high. Short-term resistance is 641. And again, we haven't changed the daily trend. So SPY saw a big bounce, 20%, and did not change its daily trend. Now we have. And if anybody's going to do that, we have to see a daily trend change here as well. And CWeb would need another 20% to do so. TRUL running towards earnings. Strongest MJ name easily. No one's even close. Daily higher lows intact. We are currently at levels that we were at the end of February. Curious where SPY was at that point in time. SPY was up here at 320. So TRUL is recovering almost all of the COVID dump. Still looking for a weekly lower high, but an extremely significant bounce. Let's see if we get some profit taking heading into earnings. If we do, we're just going to look for a daily higher low compared to 1195. So IAN, unfortunately, the hammer is dropped, at least in the short term. The red flags were there. And again, I lost money in IAN. I lost money in USMJ in 2019. The key was knowing when to fold them. And I definitely ate into a bunch of my profits in 2019 with USMJ. I did attempt to initiate some swing positions in USMJ, and that obviously was wrong. So we have to recognize when we are wrong and stop out. That is the key. I would have turned a solid loss into a huge loss if I didn't do that. The red flags that were there, I mean, just the price, the technical analysis has had us bearish on IAN, even compared to the sector for quite some time. And then we had the convertible debt and just not a good situation. The takeaway is, let this be a learning experience. Hopefully it's not a game breaker for you personally. It's a lesson. Again, when I started trading, I ran a penny stock from, I was like 21 or 22 years old, $7,000 to $42,000. I was riding on top of the world. That was a ton of money to me back then, and I gave it all back because I fell in love with the story. I didn't know about convertible debt and dilution. That's how I learned about it, and I vowed to never make that mistake again. And here I am 7 years later, and things are going really well because I have never made that mistake again. So you can use this for good. You can use this lesson for good. It's just all how you respond to it. Some people are going to quit and never trade again and throw their hands up in the air and never invest again. Other people are going to use it as motivation and a learning experience. CL, daily high or low is 366. I'm going to stop covering IAN from now on, just like CTST. So CL, we have our higher low of 366, and the bulls have to break 478. So still a ways to go. Pretty much everybody about 15 to 20% away from breaking the high of the bounce at this point. And we have to keep in mind, well, what happens if the S&P 500 starts consolidating after maybe another green day or so? We would then anticipate that that would have a bit of a negative impact on the sector. So that's why we have to make note, okay, the bull move in the S&P 500 wasn't helping the bulls much in terms of seeing daily continuation. What's going to happen on consolidation? GTII, daily high or low, 750. Bulls have to break 930 for continuation. And Harv, trying to level out, not much bounce at this point, not confident that 105 is our key support. But 105 and then 176 is that resistance. So daily lower highs on watch. Loss of the hourly uptrend will be the first indication that daily lower highs have been set. Keeping an eye on the S&P 500 as always. Hope you had a good weekend, and we'll see you soon. So we'll end today with a little bit of story time with a story that just happened, and I don't think you'll see it in the newspaper tomorrow, but today I'm a duck hero. So it started the morning with Daddy Duck hanging out by himself, which he does often now these days. I assume Mom's sitting on a nest of eggs somewhere, and she generally comes for an hour or two during the day, and then they'll leave together. So he comes early, he was hanging out, and he suddenly flew out of the pond, which wouldn't be surprising, but he flew in a way that I've never seen the ducks exit the pond. They always exit the same way. So that in itself was a little bit different. And then I looked up in the sky and saw that there were 3 ducks up in the sky, and judging by the calls and the way they were flying around, something was up, something was not normal. So there's the 3 ducks, there's aggressive quacking, and they're just circling above. And normally they fly to their destination. There's no circling above unless they're going to land. So they're circling around, and eventually one duck breaks off, and then the pair keeps circling around, and then they do this slow corkscrew down and land into the pond. And that's the couple, the mom and dad mallard, who have been at the pond for a while. So I figured, that was a little bit strange. I wonder if there was another duck trying to get with mama duck. So a half hour later, I'm out there watering, and a big mallard makes a crash landing into the pond and starts to aggressively go after the female. There's a bunch of quacking. The poor daddy duck, who is smaller, was trying to box him out and put himself in between the 2 ducks. And through all of that, I ran down to the pond and clapped really loud, and that broke the trance of the bad guy mallard. And with a couple well-placed thrown sticks, separated them enough that the couple went off and they were consoling each other, and then the big duck gave up for the time being. So essentially, I saved the day. And you can do it all you want here on my property, it's just got to be consensual. Consent is really important, and we're not going to have any sneaky backdoor mallards try and plant their seed on my watch. So that's my day.